That's quacktastic!
If you would have told us nearly 30 years ago that we would be looking at a Count Duckula action figure, we would have called you a bald-faced liar. And yet it turns out it's very much the case, because today we are going to take a look at Count Vegetarian, but you know him better as Count Duckula. I'm Kevin.
I'm Dave.
And welcome to the Plastic Multiverse. Here he is, the great Count himself, Count Duckula, again known as the actual toy Count Vegetarian. Dave, now you picked this up, so I'll let you kind of take the lead on this. You were a big Duckula fan. Talk a little bit about how awesome this figure is to see it in person.
I was, and going back to being a late 80s kid, once upon a time, Nickelodeon before Nicktoons, pretty much everything they showed animation-wise was foreign. This was a British cartoon. It was a spin-off of Danger Mouse from a company called Cosgrove Hall. And this, I assume it's a third party because he's Count Vegetarian.
Yes.
But like I was just saying before we went on camera, if a toy company came to me and asked me to list 15 figures that I would absolutely love to see made, he wouldn't have made the list, even though I would have liked for him to be on there, just because I would have thought it was such a long shot to get a Count Duckula figure.
And yet here we are.
And there's so many accessories with this thing.
It is ridiculous.
I mean, 5 heads. Let's see, you've got, 6 pairs of hands?
Yeah, like at least, yeah. It's a ridiculous number of hands. You've even got the carrot vampire and the broccoli spear from his portrait in the castle, plus his cane, which you see him holding, and Lord knows he has so many expressive hands. I love the OK symbol you see him holding up now. He's got his more vampire, like, I'm coming to get you hands, to go with the beautiful vamped out head. This is much like the Jada Toys Chester Cheetah. It's like posing a cartoon.
It really is, and you've actually got a couple little bonus figures too with him. You've got Dmitri and Sviatoslav, the bats that come out of the cuckoo clock to tell jokes. It would have been nice to have the cuckoo clock, but I think they've more than done enough here.
Yeah, it is a really fun figure. So let's take a look at his articulation. There's not a whole lot to go on here, but it gets the job done. Dave, let's take a look at the cape there.
Yeah, first. The first thing we're going to do is remove this cape, because it goes on easy, but you don't really want to have it on when you're posing it.
We would all lose our sanity. It's very, very tough, because it's not pegged in like we talked about. It just kind of sits.
It sits right on his shoulders, yeah.
So let's start with his arms. It's the basic. You get that 90-degree rotation, like sort of the ball joint type arm. You can get him in a T-pose. I know a lot of people always ask, can you put him in a T-pose? You absolutely can.
He does not have double jointed elbows, but you've got some really good range. He can do the oh my goodness kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And his head is on a ball joint, so you got a full, like you said, you can do the Exorcist.
If you want to, the Exorcist you can.
Yeah, tilt all around.
Now the up and down part is where it loses a little bit, because you can get him looking down pretty well. That works, but just looking up, he doesn't really have a whole lot. You'd have to use his body to get him to look.
Yeah, you kind of got to lean his legs a little.
And that, as we'll see here in just a second, that can get a little bit precarious because his legs are very thin. But as you can see, the arms definitely get the job done. They're very expressive. They work. So let's look at, now there's no waist articulation or anything like that. The body is just a solid piece. So if you're looking for waist articulation, that's not here. But let's take a look at the legs. And that is where there is some basic articulation. Dave, you've noticed it's like a kind of a ball joint down there as well.
Oh yeah, you've got a full rotation on this leg. And the ankles are surprisingly good. You've got a ball-jointed ankle.
Yeah,
and you can get a lot of rotation in any direction here.
Yeah, it's actually like surprisingly good. The only issue, of course, being that where they're so thin, it's kind of hard to get them to stand sometimes. So that's really one of the biggest issues that you have. We did want to show you really quick too. We can pop off the head here for you. It is on a ball joint, and it seems small, but Dave, I mean, when you're putting it on there, you can feel that go on there well, right?
Yeah, it snaps on really well. It looks like it shouldn't. Like it's so tiny, and it feels like you could break it, but you just kind of got to get this lined up in the hole, and you hear that good snap.
Yeah.
And he's got the same deal with his wrists, just the same tiny little ball joint right there.
Very Mezco-like, maybe even a little bit smaller, but it does, you'll hear that, there's that snap. It's very satisfying, and it's definitely on there snug and secure. So again, you can get the idea of what you want out of the character. And, you know, Dave, I think you said it best. There's not a lot of articulation, but the accessories, the multiple heads, the multiple hands, you can get the emotion and the character, range you're looking for out of that.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll put this cape back on his shoulders.
Yeah, just so you can see it literally just sits.
It's not hard to fool with at all. It just
kind of sits there, but it does look really good, and it definitely makes him look his Count Duckula best. So with that, that's a look at the that's a look at the articulation. So let's take a look now at some photos of Count Duckula here in this beautiful Extreme Sets dungeon. If you've not picked up this is a excellent set to have. I don't care what figures you've got, you can find a use for it. But let's see what happens when Count Duckula gets to hang out in his beautiful Duckula manor. So there you have it, Count Duckula's trip through the plastic multiverse. Had some friends along the way. It's always nice to be able to show the Jada Toys Bela Lugosi vampire Dracula. And who knew the Blade was going to show up? Yeah, but he got away, and that's all that matters. He's here to tell the tale. So as we're wrapping up, Dave, your final thoughts, the pros and cons of this figure. For me, the pros definitely have to look at the accessories. You've got to definitely take a look at that, because goodness gracious,
yeah,
he's packed.
Yeah, and like we were saying, it's very expressive. Yeah, not so much in the articulation, but these hands and heads, just, man, they nailed it.
They really did. Now, that's not to say, again, he, as you saw in the pictures, he does have posability, but these little legs do make it very tough to hold a lot of different poses. As you said, if he had a little bit of a longer cape, it would be like a tripod kind of stand. It would be helpful, but you can definitely get him in poses. For those of you who are photographers, you'll be able to make it work, but it's definitely going to be one of those. The balancing act is a cautious one once you try to get into dynamic poses. For me, like I said, really the only cons are just the cape not being attached is a bit of an odd choice. I wish it could be a little more connected. And the top heaviness is definitely an issue.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I think if they would have, you see it in higher end figures, I think if they would have weighted the feet or calves, that would have taken care of that.
Yeah, that's true. A weight would definitely help. I would even say, if you're using like the poster tack that we use for posters, sure. I would definitely say that would be good for him to stand on. It would kind of help keep him in place a little bit. Or on his cape, even to kind of keep that on there as well. But again, the cape, as long as you're not shaking him around, it stays on. I mean, he's been rotating the whole time and it hasn't come off. So he definitely, it works, but I just feel a little more cautious, I would just feel better if it just clipped on and just be done with it. But as it stands, a really fun figure. Again, the heads are amazing. This vamped out head with the red eyes is just spectacular. The fangs are amazing.
Yeah, if you can find this, I know it's sold out a lot of places, but if you can find this is just my absolute highest recommendation. It's exactly what I would have wanted out of Count Duckula.
Yeah, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And again, folks, as we like to remind you, enjoy collecting. Enjoy collecting what you like. You know, you don't have to collect just one thing. That's why we're the Plastic Multiverse. I mean, yeah, I'm a huge G.I. Joe nerd, but I also love a good giant, dinosaur or Street Fighter 2, or of course, especially Mr. T. So the thing is, we live in a world where these things exist. How amazing is that? If I could go back in time, like my 10-year-old self in the 80s would lose his mind over these things today. I mean, like when you think about what we had, we loved what we had, but when you think about like the possibility that's out there today, like you couldn't do a lot that we had what we had then. You couldn't do a lot with what you can today.
Oh, alternate heads and hands.
Yes,
like, I couldn't even comprehended that.
Yeah, it would have never been something we could have thought possible, but yet here we are in this world. So again, the thing is, it can be kind of crazy out there in the world, and Lord knows we've had a lot of drama these past few years in particular, but this is something that I don't let anybody take your joy away from collecting, because collect what you love. Don't feel like you got to be set to just one thing. And if your partner, if your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife says that you shouldn't be collecting, you need to tell them to go somewhere else. Don't rain on your parade. Don't steal your sunshine, and let you have your Count Duckula however you want to have him. It's just that simple. So, signing off from this first episode of the Plastic Multiverse, I'm Kevin.
I'm Dave.
And we look forward to seeing what you have to say about Duckula down in the comments below. Do you have one yourself? Have you been able to find it? And if so, what did you think? Were you a fan of the cartoon? Let us know below. And with that being said, gang, remember, enjoy what you collect what you love, and just love being a collector. We'll talk to you next time.